Hi, my name is Chris Dyer, and I hope to show you today that failure doesn't suck. To do that, let's talk about how getting stuck on a zip line taught me the difference between making mistakes and errors. A few years ago, I was in Portugal, and my friends, wife, and youngest son and I decided to go on the second longest zip line in the world. It's a 1,538-meter steel cable 150 meters off the ground. On this cold, rainy, and windy day, my friends and I descended upon the mountain for an amazing adventure and hopefully a memory we would never forget. For some reason, they all insisted that I go first. All right, I said, but after a 20-minute van ride to the peak on the opposite side of the valley, I was finally strapped in, laying on my stomach, looking like a superhero ready to fly. They asked for my weight, and they did some calculations, and then asked for my name, quickly saying, "Goodbye, Chris," as I was released to see this amazing scenery. At first I was scared, and then I was in awe of the beauty. And as I really caught speed, a little fear and excitement rushed through me. But as I got close to the end, I noticed that I was slowing down. Now, the videos I had seen of others doing this exact zip line always seemed to come in fast, but it was slowing down way too soon. The employees at the bottom, charged with my safe return, began scrambling because they realized I wasn't coming in fast enough to reach the end. A quick young man ran to a tower and attempted to hand me a pole, but I was never close enough to grab it. By now, I start inching backwards. Suddenly, he yelled, "Please wait a moment." Well, what does that mean? What's going on? Well, for about 5 minutes, I slowly slipped backwards and finally came to a complete stop in the middle of this line. I'm stuck. It's just me, the trees, and now my own imagination. The panic sets in, and now I begin to stare at those wonderful autumn trees, and I notice the road directly below me, and the cars passing along. I wonder, is this it? Will I reach my end at the end of the bottom of that road? Now, while this is happening, the man at the top, where my friends and family are, attempted to explain what was happening. He told them, "Your friend didn't make it." They erupted in questions and concern, and quickly he had to explain in limited English that I was stuck and not dead. So I hung there for about 10 minutes and suddenly began to feel a buzzing on the line. Again, the panic and fear started to take over, and I was now worried that they had sent my wife down the line. Being in a high state of fear, I wondered if they had failed to tell the person at the top that I was stuck. Was my wife, who was already apprehensive about this zip line, about to collide with me? We might be in real trouble. And if we survived, I would never hear the end of it. But everything was okay. And the buzzing I felt was an employee coming out to save me. He finally arrived and connected a rope to me and asked if I was okay. I took a deep breath and realized I will get back safely. As it turns out, I was never in any real danger. Had I tried everything I could to fall or be released from the harness, nothing would have happened. As I finally landed back at the bottom, with my feet on the ground, I took a big sigh of relief. The manager had come out to greet me and to check on me and shared with what he thought was really great news. "Don't worry, you can go again for free." I said, "No way, at least not again that day." So I instead watched my friends and family come down in complete joy and satisfaction, enjoying their experience, and then I had to explain my own unique adventure. We all had a great laugh. But then it got me thinking as we were driving home about whether this was an error or a mistake. Should I be angry at someone, or should I be understanding? Here it's important to understand the difference between an error and a mistake. Mistakes happen when we try to do our best but fail, based on what we know and what we try, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. And we can learn from this. On the other end, an error is something else. In fact, errors should not even be tolerated. They come from poor preparation, poor execution, multitasking, and even incompetence. In this case, when I was on the zip lines, the employees there tried to do their best with what they could and the information and the tools that they had, and for that I couldn't fault them. They were well trained and thoughtful about everything they did. But had they had the tools they needed to prevent this, it would have been an error, and they would have been to blame. So if you were the manager of this park and I came to complain to you, what would you do? Would you think this was a mistake or an error? Would this be a cause for disciplinary action? Or do we learn from this and figure out how to make it better? The best organizations would use this as a learning experience to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. Worst organizations might fire someone or avoid even thinking about it. In this case, it turns out that there was no way for them to measure the wind in the middle of the canyon, in the middle of the line. They did their best to guess based on the conditions, and sometimes the first person of the day can get stuck. That was me. Despite their best efforts, sometimes they just don't have the information they need to do any better. This happens all the time at work. This is what leaders and anyone who manages people deals with on a daily basis. Great leaders have either learned this or they somehow know it intuitively, but in the work that I've done over the years and interviewing hundreds of leaders and working with clients and inside my own companies, I have found that 95% of organizations get this wrong. And almost every leader today struggles to get this right. Organizations like 3M, Google, and Apple have figured this out, and it is a part of the story of their innovative success. Before the age of computers, 3M was already documenting every result of every experiment, regardless of the outcome, because it could be helpful to them later on. In the late 1960s, Spencer Silver had accidentally created an adhesive that only stuck lightly to surfaces but didn't bond tightly to them. Fast forward years later, another 3M scientist, Arthur Fry, needed a bookmark that would stick to his choir hymnal pages without damaging them. He went into that trusty 3M database of experiments and found Silver's adhesive. And that was how the Post-it was invented in 1974. Can you imagine if Spencer Silver had been fired for making a terrible glue? What if 3M had not valued that mistake and not kept a comprehensive database? The most profitable and popular 3M product may never have been created. William McKnight, a former 3M chairman, said, "Management that is destructively critical when mistakes are made kills initiative. And it is essential that we have many people with initiative if we are going to continue to grow." Now think about your own company. When you make a mistake, do you celebrate? Do you think this is an incredible chance to learn and grow? Or do you hide? Fearing discipline and angry bosses or angry team members? If we want organizations to welcome mistakes, there are some key things that must be done. First, and this is big, it must start at the top. Leaders that admit and share their mistakes with their team first can expect others to follow suit. We must create the right environment if we expect a healthier way to deal with mistakes. Next, we need to be sure that we know if it is a mistake or an error. Again, errors come from bad habits, bad training, low aptitude for a task, multitasking, and other overworking type scenarios. In taking the time to determine this with your team, you can figure out if this is a learning experience for growth or an example of a bad behavior or process. So let's use a real-life example. If a hospital had an issue with nurses giving patients the wrong medicine or the wrong dose, it is not a mistake, it is an error. They need to figure out why. Is it a lack of communication, process, or do these errors happen when they are sleep-deprived or stressed out? When we know why, we can make changes to ensure that these things get better, these errors don't happen. Yelling and screaming or making people feel bad won't eliminate the chance of a repeat. Deep study into people, process, and observation can help us where we need to focus. However, if it is a mistake, make sure we do a few more things. First, focus on the positive. What did we learn? What good came of this? How can we improve for the next time? This tells the person or the team that you care about the long-term success and not a small bump in the road. Second, you need to make sure your team knows that talking about mistakes is okay. At my companies, we have a "Oops, my bad" room in Slack. Anyone can share their mistakes and get support or ideas. Every day, someone shows up and admits things I would have never known even happened, and I am so thankful. There are other examples of companies rewarding, even compensating people who share and leverage mistakes in a positive way, which will further their innovation goals. Remember, mistakes create moments of learning. Mistakes create innovation. The Dyson vacuum design is famous for not working thousands of times because it took all of that process to make it mastered. But in every company or in every employee, we know they're not inventors. So we need to create a space and opportunity to talk about the softer space where it just didn't go as planned. In Scrum and Agile, they have a wonderful practice called the retrospective. This post-sprint meeting is a way to talk about what went well and what they could have done better, where they could do better next week, next sprint, or next time. Here, they don't hide the mistakes. Instead, they have an organized practice for drawing out the negative and making it a positive. This is key. Instead of trying to avoid the difficult, it is important that we accept and understand it, turning toward failure, mistakes, and disappointment. We can learn and improve when we do this and find real joy in the process and potential to find amazing outcomes for the next time. To do this, we must have deep perspective, a sense of humility, forgiveness, and even a sense of humor to reach moments where we can all improve performance, productivity, and profits. After I escaped my adventure on that zip line in Portugal, I sure hope that they huddled up and talked about how they could have prevented other adventure seekers from getting stuck, how they could measure the wind in the middle of the canyon and improve the experience for everyone. Of course, I'll never know if they did that, but I know that from this experience, it helped me ensure that clients and customers and even employees see better results from me anytime I fail to reach the end of my line.